Welcome to Once Upon English.
What if I told you that the secret to happiness isn't money, fame, or success, but one simple word from Japan, Ikigai, the reason you wake up every morning? The story begins. Have you ever stopped for a moment and asked yourself, why am I here? Not just where you are, but why? Why do you wake up? Why do you do what you do? And what really gives meaning to your life? For most people, this question appears quietly, maybe in the middle of the night, maybe during a long walk, or when life feels a bit empty. You feel that something is missing, but you can't say what it is. In Japan, there is a beautiful word that holds the answer. It's called Ikigai, pronounced Ikigai. It means a reason for being, your purpose, your spark, the thing that makes you excited to live another day. But here's the truth, most people never find their Ikigai. They live busy lives, they chase money or success, they compare themselves to others, and they forget to ask, what truly makes me feel alive? Let me take you to a small island in Japan, a place called Okinawa. It's known as one of the happiest and healthiest places on earth. People there live longer than almost anyone else. Many live over 100 years, but what's truly special isn't just how long they live, it's how they live. They wake up with joy. They work with passion. They help each other. They smile a lot. When scientists ask them, what's your secret to such a long and happy life? They didn't talk about diets or exercise. They said one word, Ikigai. So what is Ikigai really? Imagine 4 circles that meet in the middle. Each circle represents one part of your life. What you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for. Where all these 4 meet, that's your Ikigai. It's the sweet spot between passion, mission, vocation, and profession. It's where your heart and your mind shake hands. But Ikigai isn't just about work, it's about living. You can find it in painting, teaching, caring for others, cooking, writing, playing music, raising your children, or simply watching the sunset and feeling thankful. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man named Kenji who lived in Tokyo. He worked in a big company. He earned a lot of money, wore expensive suits, and took the train every morning at 7 a.m. sharp. But inside, he felt empty. Every day felt the same. Meetings, emails, pressure, and no real joy. He often asked himself, is this really what life is about? One day, Kenji's father, a fisherman from Okinawa, came to visit. He saw his son sitting in his modern apartment, surrounded by luxury but without a smile. He said, Kenji, when you were a child, you used to draw pictures for hours. You smiled when you painted. You forgot time. When was the last time you felt that way? That night, Kenji couldn't sleep. He thought about his father's words. He remembered the smell of the sea, the feeling of a pencil in his hand, the simple joy of creating something. The next weekend, he bought a small set of paints. He started painting again. At first, it was just a hobby, but soon it became his favorite part of the week. Then he began to share his paintings online. People loved them. After a few months, he left his job and started his own small studio. He didn't make as much money as before, but for the first time in years, he woke up every morning excited. That was his Ikigai. Finding your Ikigai doesn't happen in a day. It's not something you decide, it's something you discover. Slowly, like watching a sunrise. So, how can you find yours? Let's go step by step. First, ask yourself, what do I truly love doing, even if nobody pays me for it? What am I naturally good at? What does the world need from me? What can I do that also supports my life? Write down your answers. Don't rush. Think deeply. Because your Ikigai might be hidden in something small. Maybe it's helping others. Maybe it's teaching. Maybe it's fixing things. Maybe it's storytelling. Maybe it's bringing peace to others' hearts. Your Ikigai doesn't have to be big or famous. It just has to be real. In Okinawa, even an old woman who grows vegetables every morning and gives them to her neighbors believes she's living her Ikigai because she wakes up with purpose to share love through her garden. And that, my friend, is more powerful than money or fame. Ikigai teaches us something very important. Happiness is not found after success. It's found in the process, in doing what you love every single day. When you live with Ikigai, you don't wait for weekends to be happy. Every day becomes a small celebration. Now, close your eyes for a moment. Think about your own life. What makes you forget time? What makes you feel peaceful and alive at the same time? Whatever it is, that's a clue. Follow it, nurture it, because your Ikigai is waiting for you to notice it. And maybe one day you'll wake up early, look at the morning light, and whisper to yourself, I know why I'm here. I know my reason for being. And that, my friend, is the moment you'll start living, not just existing. So remember, your life doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be meaningful. And meaning starts with Ikigai, the science and soul of Ikigai. Kenji's story spread across his small town. People who used to rush through life began to slow down. They started asking themselves, what's my Ikigai? Some found it in gardening, some in helping children, some in cooking meals for their family. Little by little, they began to live differently, and the air around them, it changed. There was more peace, more laughter, more meaning. You see, Ikigai is not only a philosophy, it's also science. Researchers have studied it for years. They discovered that people who have a clear purpose, who know their Ikigai, live longer, healthier, and happier lives. Why? Because the brain loves purpose. When you do something you love, your brain releases chemicals called dopamine and serotonin. These make you feel happy, calm, and focused. Your body feels lighter. Your heart beats stronger. And even your immune system becomes better. That's why in Okinawa people don't retire. They just keep doing what they love for as long as they can. A fisherman keeps fishing, a teacher keeps teaching, a singer keeps singing. Not because they must, but because they want to, because that's their Ikigai. In the West, people often think happiness comes after success. First, I'll work hard, they say, then I'll be happy later. But in Japan, it's different. They say, be happy first. Do what gives you meaning. Success will follow. That's the secret behind Ikigai. It starts from the inside, not from the outside. Let me tell you about another person. Aiko, a 74-year-old woman who lives in the hills of Okinawa. Every morning she wakes up at 5 a.m. She walks through her small garden barefoot. The air is fresh, the birds are singing. She waters her flowers, feeds her chickens, and then walks to a small community center nearby. There, she teaches children how to make origami, the Japanese art of paper folding. She has done this for more than 30 years. When asked why she still wakes up early to teach, she smiles and says, "Because when I see their little hands create something beautiful, I feel young again." That's her Ikigai. Simple, beautiful, powerful. Now think about your own life. Maybe your Ikigai isn't clear yet. That's okay. It takes time. But every time you do something that makes you forget time, something that fills your heart, you are touching your Ikigai. Ikigai also means balance. It's not about doing only what you love and forgetting everything else. It's about connecting your heart with the world. When what you love also helps others, that's when life becomes truly beautiful. Scientists found something amazing. When people live with purpose, their stress goes down. They sleep better. They even look younger. Because purpose gives energy that no coffee can. Kenji, our friend from Tokyo, once visited Okinawa again. He went to see his father, this time with paint stains on his hands and a big smile on his face. His father laughed and said, "Now you finally look alive." Kenji walked along the beach. The sea was calm. He thought about how his life had changed. He realized something deep. His Ikigai was never really lost. It was always there, inside him, waiting for him to listen. In life, we often search for meaning in the wrong places. We think it's in money, followers, or big achievements. But meaning is quiet. It lives in moments, in helping someone smile, in creating something with love, in learning, sharing, caring. Ikigai is not found by looking around. It's found by looking within. Let's do a small reflection together. Close your eyes, just for a second. Think about 3 moments in your life when you felt truly happy, when your heart felt full. What were you doing? Who were you with? Why did it feel so special? These moments are not random. They are signals. They point to your Ikigai. Write them down somewhere. Keep them close. Because when life gets hard, they will remind you of who you are. The beauty of Ikigai is that it never stops growing. When you are young, your Ikigai might be to learn. Later, it might be to teach, then maybe to care for others. It changes with time, but it always stays yours. So don't worry if you haven't found it yet. The journey itself is the answer. Every step you take toward what feels right, every small moment of joy and peace, is part of discovering your reason for being. When the night comes and the world becomes quiet, remember this. You are not here by accident. There is something only you can give. Something the world needs. Something that makes you unique. That's your Ikigai. Your reason to wake up, to try again, to smile again, to love again. And once you find it, you'll never live the same way again. This is the power of Ikigai. The art of finding beauty in every breath, joy in every step, and purpose in every single day. Because at the end of the day, life isn't about how long you live. It's about how deeply you live. The Journey Within. The night air was quiet in Okinawa. Kenji sat on the porch of his father's house, watching the moonlight dance on the sea. He could hear the soft sound of the waves, the gentle wind moving through the trees. For the first time in years, his heart was still. He thought about how far he had come, from a cold office in Tokyo to this warm, peaceful island. He smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because finally everything felt right. His father came outside holding 2 cups of tea. The old man sat beside him and said, "You know, the sea never stops moving, but it never forgets who it is." Kenji nodded slowly. He understood. Life keeps changing, but when you know your purpose, you never lose yourself. The 2 men sat in silence for a long time, listening to the waves. The stars were bright and time felt like it had stopped. Day after day, his little studio filled with color and life. People from nearby towns started visiting. They watched him paint, and many said his art felt alive. One woman stood in front of his painting of the sunrise and began to cry. She said, "I can feel hope again." And Kenji smiled, because in that moment he realized his art wasn't just his Ikigai anymore. It had become a light for others too. Months passed and the seasons began to change. The trees turned red and gold. The ocean grew colder, but Kenji's heart stayed warm. He had found peace, and peace had found him. Sometimes he still visited the city, not for work, but for inspiration. He would sit in a cafe watching people rush by with phones in their hands, faces tired, eyes empty. He felt sadness, but also understanding. He knew that once he had been one of them. One afternoon, a young man approached him in that same cafe. He looked lost, just like Kenji once had. He said, "I think I've seen your art online. How do you find the courage to follow your dream?" Kenji smiled gently. "You don't find courage," he said. "You follow the thing that doesn't let you sleep." That quiet voice inside, it's your guide. The young man nodded, eyes wide, and something inside him shifted. Back in Okinawa, Kenji continued to paint. Each new artwork told a story. A fisherman smiling at dawn, an old woman watering her flowers, a child running in the rain. Simple moments, but full of life. His father often visited the studio. He would stand quietly behind his son, hands crossed, and watch him work. Sometimes he didn't say a word, just smiled, proud and peaceful. One evening, as the sun began to set, Kenji turned to him and said, "Father, do you think everyone can find their Ikigai?" The old man looked at him for a moment and replied, "Everyone already has it. They just forget to listen." That night, Kenji dreamed of his childhood. He saw himself as a little boy, running through the fields, chasing butterflies, laughing without reason. He woke up with tears in his eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude. He finally understood something powerful. Ikigai was not something he found at all. It was something he remembered. It was always there, hidden beneath years of noise, waiting patiently for him to return. Years later, Kenji grew older. His hair turned silver, his hands a little slower, but his eyes, they still shined with the same light. Every morning he still painted. Every evening he still watched the sea. And when people asked him, "Aren't you tired?" he laughed softly and said, "How can I be tired of living?" One morning, as the sun rose high above the ocean, Kenji stood in front of his last painting, a picture of his father standing by the sea, smiling. He placed the brush down gently, took a deep breath, and whispered, "Thank you." Outside, the world continued as always. Waves, birds, laughter in the distance. And in that quiet moment, Kenji felt something complete. Not an ending, but a circle closing perfectly. He had lived his Ikigai, and through him, others had begun to find theirs too. Sometimes when the wind blows across the island, people say they can still hear the sound of a brush moving, painting the air with peace and color. Maybe it's just a story, or maybe it's a reminder. Because every soul leaves a mark, and the world becomes a little more beautiful each time someone dares to live with purpose. So if you ever feel lost, if life feels heavy and directionless, remember Kenji and remember Okinawa. Remember that inside you there is a quiet voice waiting to be heard. It whispers softly, patiently, truthfully. This is your life, and it's time to live it. The eternal morning. The years flowed like a gentle river. Okinawa remained peaceful. Blue skies, clear water, and laughter carried by the wind. Kenji's little studio by the sea was now a small museum. People came from faraway cities to see his work, to feel the peace his colors carried. They said his paintings were not just pictures. They were feelings on canvas. Each one seemed alive, as if the sea itself had touched the brush. But Kenji was no longer there. He had passed away quietly one spring morning, with the sunrise shining through his window. When his friends found him, his face was calm, his hand still holding a paintbrush, and on the easel stood his final painting, a simple image of the morning sun, rising endlessly above a quiet sea. Below it, written in small letters, were 4 words: "Live while you can." At his funeral, the entire town came. Old fishermen, children, travelers, and students. They brought flowers, but also their stories. Stories of how Kenji had changed their lives. A young woman said his art gave her hope again. An old man said his smile reminded him to keep walking. And a child holding a seashell whispered, "He painted the world I want to live in." No one cried loudly. It wasn't that kind of goodbye. It was peaceful, like watching the sunset after a perfect day. His father, now very old, stood quietly near the sea. He looked at the horizon and whispered, "You found your reason, my son. And you helped others find theirs." Then slowly he smiled, and the same smile his son had once painted. Time passed again. The museum by the shore stayed open. Every morning the sunlight filled the room, touching every painting softly as if saying hello. People still visit. Some stay silent for hours, some close their eyes, and some walk away with a new spark in their hearts. They don't always know what changed inside them, but something always does. Maybe that's what Ikigai really is. A light you share, a seed you plant, a whisper that keeps echoing long after you're gone. On quiet mornings when the sea is calm and the wind is slow, locals say they can still hear a soft sound, the brush of a painter moving gently across the air. No one sees him, but everyone feels him, because Ikigai never dies. It lives in every act of love, in every breath of purpose, in every person brave enough to listen to the voice inside their heart. And maybe, somewhere far from Okinawa, Someone wakes up today feeling lost, tired, unsure. They open a window, feel the morning air on their face, and for a moment, they remember. They remember that life is not about racing to the end. It's about feeling every step, loving, creating, sharing, existing. That's when a quiet whisper rises again, the same one that once spoke to Kenji. You are here for a reason. Find it, live it, and never let it go. The sun climbs higher over Okinawa. The sea glows like glass. And somewhere beyond time and place, Kenji smiles. A brush in his hand, a light in his eyes, painting a new sunrise for all of us. The light inside you. Time passed. The old man was gone, but his words stayed in the traveler's heart. Every morning when the first light touched the trees, the traveler smiled, because he finally knew why he woke up. It wasn't for fame, it wasn't for money. It was for the quiet joy of helping others, of learning, of creating, of simply being alive. He understood now that Ikigai was not something to find far away. It was always inside him, waiting to be noticed. Years later, when people asked him, "What's your secret to happiness?" he would just smile and say, "My secret? I stopped searching for meaning outside of myself. I started living it." And when he said those words, the light in his eyes told everyone that he had found his true Ikigai. And maybe, if they looked deep enough, they could find theirs too. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to think about your own Ikigai, your reason for waking up every morning. Tell me in the comments what gives your life meaning. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe for more stories that help you learn English and understand life a little better. Because sometimes the best lessons are not found in books. They're found inside your heart.